day I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. You're breathing so hot. A lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. You're moving so fast, but baby, you know not where. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Oh, oh, you'd better stop, 'cause animals everywhere. Man is the top, and animal too. And man, you've just gotta care. Wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? The animals in the zoo. Breathing a lot of political nonsense in the air. You're making it hard for the people who live in there. Oh, wildlife, what's gonna happen to wildlife? Animals in the zoo. Wildlife, whatever happened to
All right, folks. Here we are back again on a Sunday afternoon. Happy Flag Day to everybody. Hold on, I'm trying to switch out here. There we go. Hey, y'all. Um, that was the awesome light workers doing that. Diane Leverrier, Angela Witt, Yuka Silvera, Bob Golden, and of course, Chris Walsh. An amazing rendition. Of course, we got permission from the very gracious Paul McCartney to cover that and then use it in as long as it had to do with promoting the best for wildlife education, and what have you. Very gracious to do that for us. Of course, that was on the Wings, Paul McCartney and Wings' first album titled Wildlife. And I want to thank also Cynthia Daniels, our good friend from Monk Music Studios out there, for mixing that for the Lightworker Gang. And of course, I put together the video for that. So I hope everyone enjoys it. We're going to use that as our lead in and lead out for our show. A little bit too graphic for the kids, so we use a different one for the kids on Saturday morning. But here we are on Sunday. It's 5 o'clock again. Happy Flag Day! Yay! Okay, and very excited. Many of you, or some of you, might have heard that my first grandson was born 2 days ago, and I'm really excited about that. Both Dee and I. We are congratulating my son Brandon and his magnificent wife Aaron for a job so perfectly done. And we're all so excited to meet the new Christopher. Very excited, but let's get back in focus here. I wanted to answer last week's question. I said, what was the only state out of all the states in the U.S. To have no snakes? I thought I was going to fool somebody because having lived in Hawaii myself, I lived there for 2 years on Oahu. It was common knowledge that there were no snakes on Hawaii. However, if you were into wildlife like I was, you'd know that there is a particular snake there called a flower pot snake, or there's other names for it, but that does live there and is actually a snake, does live on the ground. It's not seen that often, but it is in fact a snake, and that left Alaska as being the right answer, and it was answered right away. And I thank you for that. I do want to let you all know that next Saturday is going to be live for the kids, but it's going to be early before I go to work. We're going to do it at 7 a.m. and it may last an hour because we're going to answer a ton of questions that kids have been sending in to me over the past 2 weeks that we've been hiking and going on boat trips. So I'm very excited about that. Okay. But meanwhile, welcome folks to the 4th episode of Let's Get Wild Live. And if you want to participate, folks, you can type a question in the chat box, comment section on my Facebook page, or text me at 631-377-6555 during the show. If you want to call in live, you'll have to do it while viewing from the Riverside FM studio app. You'll just request a call in the app, and after joining the show, I'll put you backstage until I'm ready to talk to you, and we'll pull you in, and it's supposedly that easy. We'll have to try it out sometime. Those who cannot make the live stream show on Sundays at 5 or the kids shows, of course, they're both recorded, so they can watch them at any time on my YouTube channel or right here or on my Facebook page as well. Okay. One more quick notes before I get started. Like I said last week, it is very commendable that when a person or a family member, particularly a community, has a strong concern for wildlife and all the animals. The instinct to help wildlife is a testament to our empathy and respect for nature. However, while our intentions may often be quite noble, they can sometimes lead to unintended consequences due to lack of education, or you think you know what you're doing is right when actually it is not. If you're not sure, folks, please either call me or to find out, and then we'll direct you to the right person that can help physically. which would be your second or first choice, up to you. And that would be your local wildlife rescue and rehabilitation center. And that would be the Evelyn Alexander Center. And I will flash that phone number to you shortly, or actually later on in the show. Okay. I think I realized how to keep the show under an hour. Just do one topic. And if there's time, have a second one locked and loaded. That's the only way I think I could do this. So I'm going to give it a shot tonight. We'll see where it takes us. I promised my wife, Dee, I said, well, I'm going to do it. Tonight's going to be an hour. Okay. With that said, folks, let's continue our talk about opossums, because we're trying to shed some of the misinformation about these wonderful animals. They don't need this extra misinformation. They're amazing on their own. So we talked last week about the baloney about them eating 5,000 ticks, let alone any ticks, in the majority. We also talked about how hanging from the tail is not normal. In fact, this is a staged photo. It's not normal, and in fact, is very damaging to the backs of these animals, especially as they get older. So we're going to continue this by telling you some of the uh, neat things that these animals um, are involved in. And that thing we're going to talk about this week is Thanatosis. Ah, shoot, I forgot my tooth. Getting my tooth uh, fitted this week. So hopefully next week I'll be able to say all these fun words like Thanatosis, otherwise known as tonic immobility. Both fancy words for the act of feigning or playing or simply faking death. It's best known as the final act of an opossum that has exhausted all opportunities of both fight and or flight. But folks, it is actually so much more and involves so many different animals. In fact, tonic immobility is exhibited both voluntarily and involuntarily in many mammals, birds, insects, reptiles, amphibians, crustaceans, fish, and even humans. So that's why I thought would be a great subject to talk about. So many different species of animals exhibit uh, tonic immobility, which we're going to shorten. Okay, we'll call it TI to make it easier, so I don't have to keep saying that word. But so many different species of animals exhibit TI that researchers are still trying to figure out which ones do it involuntarily and which ones do it on purpose. Even deeper is that researchers are also still trying to determine which predators even believe it's faking dead prey is even dead at all when observing this behavior. Okay. So there's still a lot out there that science is trying to sort out. But as far as the opossum, we've pretty much closed the book on it in regards to Thanatosis. Okay. We know it is an involuntary response to fear and severe stress. We know it triggers, well, we know it occurs instantly, number one. Okay. We also know that it triggers secondary involuntary physical responses like anal secretions, an odor to mimic death, infection, or other, at the very least, a non desirable meal, right? We know the opossum suffers other physical effects during this event, such as either stiff or limp muscles, whatever way the brain wants to adjust them involuntarily to the animal itself, and then significantly slowed heartbeat and breathing, an almost complete catatonic state. Okay, I personally have seen this happen so many times, but I've seen it. I've seen possums even salivate. Almost all the time they salivate, but sometimes they urinate. Other times they defecate. Um, they always cast the odor, and it's pretty disruptive. it turns most animals away. It turns me away um, quite a lot. And every time I've worked with them and I've had this issue, I would put Vicks Vapor Rub on my mustache, and that would help. I do the same thing when I pick up dead deer as well, but that always became a tool in my chest of rescue paraphernalia. Some Vicks Vapor Rub. Anyway, we also know that the tonic immobility in opossums can last anywhere from 40 minutes to 4 hours, and they have no control over this. Okay. Which creates even worse issues, particularly in the colder months. Okay. When they're laying on the ground, they're susceptible to ground cold hypothermia, which happens quite a bit. People don't know that, as well as vehicle strikes. I mean, these animals come to the roadsides to feed on other dead animals, and then cars going by will scare them or put them in a stress related state of tonic immobility, and then of course they wake up in a panic and they might run the wrong way, usually into traffic, and this is when this causes other situations. Okay, so we know that about the opossum. Another animal we know about is the hognose snake. Okay, and we've talked about this before. Actually, we talked about it last week. It is similar to the opossum with the slight differences that bring up often asked question. Okay, and let me first explain why before I tell you what that often asked question is. You see, when threatened, the hognose has a protocol of defense moves to persuade the hungry to look elsewhere. They don't just immediately turn over and exhibit tonic immobility. First, the snake shakes its tail like a rattlesnake. That's not mentioned a lot, but I've seen it almost every time I've had an interaction with a hognose snake. Okay. They shake their tail like a rattlesnake, of course, with no rattles, while coiled like this in a defensive stance. If this fails, which it usually does, it's pretty mild, the hognose will flatten its head, its neck, and about a third of its body, maybe a little less, but some of its body, okay, and open its mouth real wide, hiss real loud, and make some pretty bizarre noises as well, not just a hissing sound. And even at times they will do what is called a bluff strike, and here's an
Showstopper right here.
example of that. You'll see here.
Oh, bluff striking.
Just
Actually,
striking
like
at the
fangs.
person handling them, not to hurt them, just with an open
Dang,
mouth,
dude.
not to bite or
That
sink
is a
teeth in,
beautiful hog.
but strictly
Little showstopper.
for the fear factor. Okay, when all of this fails, unfortunately, um, when that bit of dramatic hasn't done the trick, the snake will simply flip over on its back with an open mouth, with its tongue hanging out, and it'll exhibit tonic immobility. Okay, let me see. I think I got a picture of this. Boom, like there. Okay. Um, it'll even release a horrible musky odor that mimics, again, rotting death, something to turn off the predator from considering it as a meal. And you know, another thing about this, folks, is this delay, the cause of delay that is the factor of delay that is caused by this defensive move is very important, and it must be factored in this whole scenario, because the predator thinks like this. He doesn't sit there thinking, is this animal dead or does it smell bad? Do I want to eat it? It also is thinking more primarily, should I be wasting time waiting to find out while other opportunities are passing me by? Okay. Now, in research, science has figured out that this is more of the common reaction of animals when they are faced with a tonic immobility as a defensive move towards a predator. Okay. The predators, most of the time, will quickly decide to ignore the animal and go tend to business. Go find food that is available and catchable without any dramatics or odors that'll deter that want. Understand? That's quite easy to understand. But here's the question, folks. The question asked: is this involuntary or voluntary tonic immobility? Well, that's a great question. And quite frankly, it's my belief that science considers it involuntary, but personally, just personally, I'd have to maybe argue that because, quite frankly, I think that the prior theatrics before committing to the actual feigning of death, I think that shows that the animal is going through a protocol and is not triggered to go into tonic immobility. So that's my opinion because of course I've dealt with this a lot of times, both hognose and Virginia opossum. Anyone on the east coast of Long Island would be able to view both these animals in abundance. And if they've had the opportunity to see either one of them exhibit thanatosis, it would be a treat to see nature at work. I mean, nature at its best at work, at its mysterious, at the very least. Okay. Um, in fact, many of the animals I suggested that exhibit thanatosis do so in a voluntary manner. I mean, that's a fact. It is still considered, however, tonic immobility, just as it is in the opossum. And that I find a little strange. I would think that they would call one thanatosis and the other tonic immobility, but it's not, and there's a reason why. Um, because it's also well known that tonic immobility is exhibited in both reproduction and predatory feeding. So, in fact, it's not only a defensive category. Thanatosis and tonic immobility just doesn't fall under defensive category. Happens during highly stressful situations and results uh, in control involuntary um, tonic immobility. In reproduction, for example, okay? Let me show you this because I learned this actually today myself. A male nursery web spider, shown here, okay, will bring its female partner a gift of a paralyzed insect, sort of as a nuptial gift, I guess, right? While she enjoys her meal, that's when the male will mount and transfer the sperm to the female very slowly, I would assume as well. And if the female stops eating, which would indicate that she is probably going to attack or something has upset her, the male will slip into tonic immobility to avoid being eaten. Okay? How awesome is that? And once the female continues dining, the male finishes up and makes an 8-legged exit quicker than you can imagine. I'm telling you. Can you imagine? So no, I know we can't, but it's just another sign of how incredible nature is. I mean, we learn about these little things that animals do that are so amazing or bizarre or unique or spectacular, and it just makes the whole picture that much more amazing as a whole and important and treasured and precious. Okay. Some of you folks may also be familiar how researchers turn sharks upside down to induce tonic immobility so they can work on them safely without having to remove them from the water. Um, Researchers believe this is possible because the sharks use this in a natural setting for mating purposes to reduce stress during copulation. I can imagine two sharks copulating would be stressful. Um, I would imagine. That's all I can do. But having one of the sharks, the one that's upside down, fall into tonic immobility, it clearly would bring the stress level down for one or both of the partners there. But I know the researchers, and this picture right here is actually researchers having turned over what appears to be, and I don't even know this, but it appears to be maybe a lemon shark because I know they're very susceptible to tonic immobility. Most sharks are, but they act differently. I mean, tiger sharks exhibit tonic immobility, but in a different way than lemon sharks. Lemon sharks become completely paralyzed. Okay. Um, Here, the gentleman, the rescuer, is removing a hook from the shark. Okay. Um, and he turned it upside down so that it would go into this state of tonic immobility, give him the opportunity to work on the shark and help it safely for the shark and the guy pulling it out and his buddies who are both filming it and holding the shark's back tail. So everybody's safe because the shark can be put into this state without any medication, even. So how amazing is this? Meanwhile, you'd be interested to know that um, there are female species of some flies, even butterflies, and even dragonflies that display tonic immobility to avoid male attention and forceful copulation. Okay, which is quite common in the wild. Okay, I don't know if you've ever seen two ducks uh, copulate, or it's anything but romantic. Let me tell you that. Um, but in this case, there are certain insects that will use tonic immobility to avoid the male attention, so that they won't be forced to copulate. So I find the whole subject interesting because it both includes voluntary and involuntary responses. Um, it can bring on secondary involuntary responses, which really kind of blows my mind when you think about it, because these are responses in that happen physically in the body while you're in a catatonic state. They're like automatic. And that kind of, it really interests me because that kind of leads back to the hognose snake and the footage that I've seen of very young baby hognose snakes and how they exhibit um, feigning of death, tonic immobility, as you can see here. I mean, it's amazing. It's automatic upon birth. It's just something that's instinctual for the hognose snake. Okay, and they're not the only snake. Okay, there's other snakes that do this as well. Another interesting animal that we should talk about because it fits into another category. Because of course, everything I've told you so far isn't amazing enough. Um, it's possible you haven't heard of the cichlid fish of South Africa, and of course, a lot of tropical collectors who collect fish, keep them as pets, and what have you, have probably heard of the cichlid. Um, um, but these fish outright purposely fake their death by both changing color and floating to the bottom the body of water they're at, lying on their side at the bottom of the water body, and physically acting like a dead fish. This is specifically done on purpose to attract smaller scavenger fish that would usually come and pick the dead fish apart. And when these fish come to congregate and they're all kind of checking out where they're going to start, the cichlid jumps up like lightning fast and grabs one or two of them, and that's how they get their meal. Now, that's not how they get their meal all the time. They would get their meals normally by either predatory responses. They are a predatory fish, okay? However, if there is a problem with them getting the appropriate food that they need, they will use tonic immobility as a trick to get food or an easier method of getting food. And here's a couple neat pictures. First of all, the top picture shows a cichlid with its normal coloring. Okay. But when it's just before it floats to the bottom and feigns death, it turns to the color of what a fish would turn to when it's dead. And that usually is a white, pale color. Okay. And if you watch this quick 10-minute video, you'll see how lightning fast this little trickster operates. There he is laying on its side, and boom, just like that, he's got himself a meal. Okay. Pretty amazing. Okay. So we've discussed Thanatosis being exhibited involuntarily, voluntarily, okay, purposely, all right, um, as defense, as means of helping with reproduction, as a means of avoiding reproduction, okay, and of course now for predatory feeding, which I just showed you. So there's a handful of reasons that animals, and again, many animals, and we went through the list: mammals, birds, insects, crustaceans, okay? And we talked about the fish and the mammals, reptiles, amphibians, okay? Frogs, there's several different species of frogs that will exhibit tonic immobility to survive a predatory attack. Okay. And another, as we talked about birds as well, the chimney swift. Okay. The chimney swift, I pulled this at the last minute, but if you actually handle a chimney swift, it'll probably go limp in your hand and appear dead until you put it on the ground and leave it alone, which in most cases it'll come back to life. Okay, not in the literal sense, but that's what happens. Let's see. Check my notes here. We talked about that. Oh, researchers even discovered that juvenile fire ants enter tonic immobility to avoid aggression. So there's another purpose that animals use tonic immobility. The juvenile fire ants are exhibiting, falling into a state of tonic immobility when they feel threatened that there could be possible aggression by adult worker fire ants from neighboring colonies. Okay? I mean, these are rough little buggers. I've been bitten by fire ants in Texas. That's another story for another time. But a lesson to learn in Texas when you're working on a ranch where there's fire ants: don't wear sandals. Don't get used to wearing sandals. You're not in the beach. You're in Texas. Okay. So that's a story we'll talk about another time. But how interesting. Here's another example, another use of Thanatosis, tonic immobility, is to avoid aggression from other species. Okay, almost like, just chilling and letting the bad guys walk by, and when they're gone, you get up and boom, you start doing your business. Okay. I could keep going with various methods of tonic immobility functions involuntarily or purposely used in the natural world, but it would take a very long time. And it all boils down to the same moral of the topic. And that is, although the Virginia opossum is the poster critter for tonic immobility, it is absolutely not the only animal that uses or exhibits it. Okay. So, again, the opossum, absolutely. We see it a lot. We know about it. We've learned about it. It's been one of these things we grow up knowing that opossums play dead. I find it's funny that the word play is used because when an opossum uh, plays dead, it is anything but playing. For some of these other creatures, like the cichlid fish, it may be playing, but for the Virginia opossum, it is everything but playing. It is when everything else has failed, and the big hungry dog that wants to either play or get you off his property or bring you limp to show to mommy and daddy, um, is nudging at you. This is when an opossum loses that control and knows that it's done everything and lets its natural body chemistry and brain chemistry set it into a catatonic state of tonic immobility. And I find that most incredible for the opossum, but even more spectacular that so many other animals use it, particularly the ones we talked about. In fact, even humans exhibit tonic immobility when undergoing or experiencing intense trauma and or fear, okay, including sexual assault when it is most commonly witnessed or reported. It leaves the victim suffering from sudden immobility, disassociation, and unresponsiveness. Okay. Um, Clearly, anyone who's had a traumatic experience, a severe traumatic experience, may have exhibited, or of course they probably wouldn't remember it. Um, I actually can say that I had a little experience with it myself, but I don't remember much of it, which kind of makes me believe that that's what it was. Um, it kind of protects you. It kind of protects you from um, further harm. And I don't really want to get into this that much for obvious reasons. Okay, I'm not one that's well versed to talk about um, sexual assault on any level other than it. It's a crime and it's not acceptable. Uh, but what happens to a person under these circumstances? I can only imagine tonic immobility is absolutely present, but I can't elaborate any more on that. So, um, however, I'm also a believer that, and again, this is a personal belief and something that I continue to, just to research whenever I think about this and whenever I see something that reminds me or makes me think that it might give me a little more education about it. Um, that there is possibly a connection between tonic immobility and shock associated with severe trauma. So when a person goes into shock, which is an involuntary response, your body is experiencing such a severe amount of pain, that the body naturally puts you in a state of shock, so you can survive, and manage that pain until you can um, attend to the injury. Well, I kind of feel that's sort of a connection to tonic immobility. But again, my opinion, something I think about because I find all of this very interesting because it has to do with a wildlife. Um, and That's it. Anyway, that's my little Thanatosis educational. I should have started with asking you folks, what is the common advice given to a person in the event of a black or a brown bear attack, right? What are we all told to do growing up? All right, it's lie down, face down, cover your head and neck, and do not move. In fact, you're told rightly to play dead. All right, and there's a reason for that. We learned that from the wildlife. That is something we learned from the wild. And it's just another lesson human learns humans learn from wildlife. Then somewhere along the way folks thought they didn't need the advice of wildlife anymore, and the rest, well, go outside and look around, you know the rest. Okay, it's a shame too. The deer are telling you folks on the east end to slow down. That's what they're telling you. Slow down, relax, enjoy life, slow down, don't be whizzing all around, killing my family, killing me and my siblings. Okay. Just like the raccoons are telling you, look, you better maintain your soffits a little better and replace that gable vent. You're not tending to your trees properly. You've created ladders that allow it easy for me to go upstairs and get into your attic space. They're trying to tell you, folks, you're just not listening. Okay. All right. So we do have a little time left. Look at that, man. We got 20 minutes left. So I want to just go over a few quick things. As we just talked about, I found that really interesting. How about I show you a couple kind of related, even more interesting things that are not quite Thanatosis, but closely related. And this involves a particular bird, two birds actually. One you're very familiar with. The second one you absolutely have. You just probably aren't as familiar with it. This film you're going to see right here was taken here in Massachusetts on the golf course a couple years ago, and it's of a killdeer. Okay, and any of you that have seen killdeer before, they have a very unique way of protecting their young, and that is not feigning death, but feigning injury. Very close, very similar, yet enough difference where it's not considered tonic immobility, but just a very unique and successful way of a mother protecting her young. And in this film, you're going to see me close to two baby killdeer, and the mother tries to get my attention. You're not going to hear it, but she is vocalizing enough to catch my attention. So when I look at her, she buries her belly into the grass, flutters her wing and her tail feathers, puts her head down into the ground, making it look like she is severely injured. And as I start walking towards her, she waits until I'm just close enough to scurry off, just enough to not make me lose my attention back on the youngins and to keep my attention on the easy injured meal up ahead. So she'll continue to do that, drawing me further and further away from the young. And this is a very common trait of the killdeer, very unique and quite amazing. And here's a short little moderate type of quality video that I took of it happening on the golf course one day. There's the babies, and there's mama. Duck tucking herself in the grass, really making herself look injured. I walk up to her. She walks a little bit, does it again. Now she's trying to get me farther away. I'm kind of getting faster up. Now she's doing it again. Meanwhile, the babies, they're so small, I can't even see them now when I turn around. So complete success for mama. Mama will take me 2 holes away on the golf course. She doesn't care how far she has to trail the predator away from her babies, but she won't stop until that animal moves in a direction that is not indicative of him coming back and causing harm to that young. Okay. And I did tell you there were 2 birds like that. The other one is almost identical in appearance, almost, not 100%, but almost. And that's also pretty cool. And it's also a bird you are all very familiar with, and that is the piping plover. Okay. Okay, once again, very familiar looking to the killdeer as far as markings. Okay, not exactly the same, but very similar. If you can get 2 pictures of them together, you'd be quite you'd be amazed at how similar they are in appearance. Okay, so piping plover. Okay, protecting her babies. There's a little baby. I don't know if you can see right in the dead center, that little nest, and there's an egg. So the baby's laying next to an unhatched egg, the chick, surrounded by some shell fragments and some driftwood that is and a little depression in the sand that makes up the nest. So mommy's standing off away from her, watching her, waiting for any predators. And if a predator comes close, she'll begin to make noise, catch the attention of the predator, and then she feigns injury. She does almost the exact thing that the killdeer does. Almost exactly. Except she does it in the sand rather than the tall grass. Okay? Very amazing. 2 birds, 2 different birds, very common in appearance, very, very much similar in their method of protecting their young. Okay? And I just think it's an amazing that these animals, all these animals that we talk about, are so intelligent that they're able to do these amazing things. Okay. All right. So what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? If you happen to see uh, a, 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 an opossum that might be in a catatonic state of thanatosis, and it's in a bad situation, like on a roadside or in a heavily populated area where pets are roaming free, or wherever it's not a good place for an opossum to really have no control of its surroundings. You might just want to pick it up with a towel or gloves or whatever. Look, folks, you can use your bare hands when you pick up an animal. Just wash your hands. Okay. If you don't have a towel or you don't have gloves, don't not help the animal. Okay. You help the animal, then use a little soap and water. Same difference. Okay. Anyway, get this animal to a safe location, put it in a box. Don't keep the cover shut like it shows here. Leave it open. Allow that animal to get out and go when it wants to. It will when it wakes up from its state of thanatosis. Or, of course, down here it says if after 4 hours it doesn't, you might want to contact a wildlife professional or a rehab center. Okay, so they can help the animal maybe break its state. I also wanted to discuss this real quick. I see we have enough time, and that's I want folks to tell you guys how to help these beautiful opossums survive. Okay, they're super beneficial to our ecology. They're great natural pest control with very little disease probability. Okay, they're non-aggressive. They're literally non-destructive. Okay, so if you see an opossum exhibiting tonic immobility in a dangerous location, again, put it in a box, bring it home, let it wake up in a safer surrounding. Either way, if you see an opossum on the roadside that appears dead, you might want to check. Okay. Poke it with a stick, see if it's alive. You might want to check it anyway, because you might want to check the marsupium, which is the pouch. Okay. Check the pouch for babies. Mama might be dead, but there could still be 13 live babies inside that pouch. And in some cases, in the majority of cases that I've been to, some of these babies get ejected from the pouch during a vehicle strike. Okay, so mama's dead, babies are protected fantastically, but some are also ejected. Okay, these can all still be helped if somebody stops and not just ignores it. Maybe some latex gloves. With some latex gloves, or simply, again, I said, use your hands and just wash your hands afterwards. But check the belly of the roadkill. Um, Check it first, make sure it's dead. If it's a female, it'll have a marsupium. If it's not, if it doesn't have a pouch, it's a male, so you don't have to worry if babies are involved. But if it is a female and you turn it over and you will see the marsupium, it's an open, this kind of circular pouch. There is some sort of a yellowish orange discharge that you'll see inside there. It's harmless and it's normal. You can easily stretch open the patch and visibly check for babies. And in many cases, and with older young, again, they might have ejected. So it's best to search around the general area of a vehicle strike or a deceased opossum. Okay. If babies are inside the pouch or outside the pouch, it is best to put the entire carcass with the attached babies, attached meaning they're still attached to the nipples in the marsupium, whether they're hanging out of it or not, their mouths are physically locked onto the nipple. Okay. And there's 13 nipples. There could be 13 babies latched onto 13 teats in the marsupium. Okay. Put them in a box, everybody, everything, even the ejected babies. Okay. Put them together, bring them to a wildlife rehabber. Or even better, if you want to be helpful, bring them to your home where you can carefully and patiently remove the babies from the mama, um, carefully from the nipples, which takes two hands, by the way, and a lot of patience. And I'll go through that real quick. But once the babies are removed, mom can be buried properly, and the babies can then be brought to a wildlife rehabilitator where they can begin worrying and caring for the babies rather than having to remove them first from mama. You've already done that. You've cut that time of survival down for these little babies. Okay. The one important thing you need to know when dealing with the babies, removing babies from when they're locked on to the nipple, and I'll show you that right here. Okay. Here is a baby, very young. Okay, it is savable. However, that nipple is completely down into the stomach of that opossum. So just pulling the opossum off that nipple is going to, and with the suction involved right now, would probably theoretically pull the entire stomach out through the mouth. Okay. But unfortunately, that wouldn't happen first, because what you're seeing here is the possum, the baby, has locked her mouth onto that nipple. And right as soon as the nipple enters the mouth, there's a swelling that is created to keep the nipple from accidentally slipping out. Okay. So by just pulling it out of her mouth and without properly releasing that pressure and just thinking that nipple's going to come out will injure the mouth, if not break it, and really cause a lot of irreversible damage to the facial structure of the animal. So that is very important. How do we keep that from happening? Very simple. Okay. And there's a little video I'm going to show you right here. Okay. You gently, with your on both sides of the mouth, you want to push gently, not on the jaw bones, but down here, because you're trying to open the mouth, allow air to go in. Okay. And when that air goes in, it allows the nipple in the stomach, that pressure to release, kind of pulls it back, retracts. Okay. That swelling beyond the lips flattens out towards the end, and the nipple can slide out properly with no suction damage caused internally. All right, folks, once you do it once, it'll be a breeze every time. You'll want to check every opossum, and you'll want to be ready for this, to do this on every opportunity you get, because just knowing this little secret really changes the odds of the survival of the baby opossum. Okay. I'm gonna call this. I was gonna show you a little graphic little film of a roadkill that I actually put into a box. It had 3 babies. I'm just gonna show you the beginning of it, okay? And I'm not even gonna show you the. I want to show you the size of them. Okay? On the T. So there they are. There's Mama.
Sorry for the graphic
and
depiction
these
here, folks, but
were ejected.
this is
Okay?
true life,
2 of them were
and
ejected.
nature is not always pretty.
One was ejected from
as
the
beautiful as it
marsupial,
is,
the
there
one
are
in the
times
back,
like this.
but was
Of course,
still
in the
attached
wild,
to the nipple. The other 2
these
got
little guys
ejected,
wouldn't stand a
and the
chance.
nipples
So
they
here they're going to
forced
get an
release
opportunity.
the
So
nipples.
first thing is to find out how many there are,
and that's
how many are still
the
alive,
case that happened, okay?
and if we can remove them
Brought
safely
the babies home.
from Mama's been dead a little bit. Just
There's
a little
the one
bit.
that was
Well,
still
make it
attached to the nipple.
Put him with his put.
Okay,
He's a
brought
little,
her home, was able to release her
freaked out a
from the
little bit.
nipple.
Okay.
She was a little
But
excited
we're going to
about
put him with
that.
his brothers, and he'll be just fine.
But
3 that are
they were
quite
all
lively.
old enough
Okay.
That it was easy to
Kids,
do.
I'm going
Now,
to
some
shut
of
the
them
door.
had
He'll
some
come right out.
fly strike
we're gonna
on
be able
them.
to
They had
save
be
those.
cleaned up.
And then, of course,
buried
Mama, we're going to have to bury
properly
and dispose of.
and took care of
She's
her.
done.
And
So-
I'm sorry, let me stop that. I'm sorry. I was going to show you the whole thing and warn you about that early before I showed it to you, but the babies, well, they did very well. We brought them home. We raised them.
Guys.
They did very good, all 3 of them. We had the best time with these little guys. They were so good. I really was close to keeping one for to use for educational purposes. I always wanted to go to schools and educate the kids about opossums. I find them one of the most magnificent and interesting animals in the entire animal kingdom. But we ended up, they did so good, and we had such a good release point for them. Our friend Jane over on Georgica, and we gave them a release together, and they did fantastic. They hung around Jane's farm for a little bit and then disappeared and started doing what they do best, and that is natural pest control and cleanup. All right, folks, we did real good. My clock says we got 3 minutes, and that is an hour-long show. I want everybody to know that if you want to contact us, send in a question you need me to answer, or you want to talk about a particular topic that we've never talked about, or you want me to elaborate on, send me an email, send me a text. You can send me a comment on Facebook, YouTube, wherever. I'll check them all. And I will absolutely answer every question, and we will talk about whatever you want to talk about. As long as you want to keep talking about wildlife and wildlife related subjects, folks, will be here for you. Until then, don't forget what I like to tell everybody: the closer you are to nature, the further you are from idiots. And that is the God's honest truth, my friends. I hope everyone has a wonderful, summer that's coming up. Where are we? Where'd I go? Here I am. Hope you all have a wonderful summer. I know it's coming up real soon. What is it? Next week. Next week is the first day of summer. Oh, we're going to have to do a Let's Get Wild summer special episode. All right. I'll try to get some good guests on. Maybe we can get Pat Hope back. And I know Deb's going to come back and talk about something really cool. That is honey laundering. You're going to want to hear about this. So that's going to be next week, folks. I really hope to see you then. Until then, please remember that wildlife matters. And we really need to get more involved in our community and respect and care for our beautiful wildlife. Okay, folks? All right. We'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. See you next week.
Taking a walk through an African park one day, I saw a sign say animals have the right of way. Wildlife, whatever happened to you're breathing so hot, a lot of political nonsense in the air.